I should use my microphone to do it the right way. Madam Secretary, will you make sure your microphone's on and call roll, please?
All right. President Sislo,
Present.
Vice President Giarrusso,
Present.
Treasurer Blackwood,
Present.
Secretary Damians, Director LaFonte,
I'm here.
Lee,
Here.
Nutting,
Present.
Pino,
Present.
Strohmeyer,
Present.
Tubbs,
Present.
Becker.
Here.
We have a quorum. Let's have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, will you appraise us of the minutes, please?
Approval of minutes from June 18th, 2024. Minutes were approved by email vote completed on June 26th, 2024.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? By a show of hands, may I have your approval for that? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Okay, the next item is the President's report. This is an interesting opportunity I've never had to do before. And I thought I'd just spend my time talking basically about what the board's been doing for the past month, and there's so many other activities that gone on that will be covered by others. But as you can tell by the minutes that were approved from June 18th, we had our first orientation meeting, and we got together with some of the outgoing directors as well as the current directors, and really tried to pass the torch on some of the information that the outgoing directors had to share so that we could keep the continuity going. We also made sure we introduced key staff members like Mr. Abity, our GM, Andrea Jones, our counsel, and Darian McInnes, our controller, so that the new members were familiar with key people they had to work with. Mr. Becker was kind enough to give us a quick history of the Diamond Head and the POA board, kind of getting everybody up to speed, and then we spent our time working on our committees. And I want to thank all the volunteers who sent in their interest in committees, and I want to thank all the chairmen of the committees for the work they did in finding the appropriate people to begin those committees. We also looked at meeting dates. It has been pointed out that perhaps we have a few issues we might be facing in the future, but we will be working on meeting dates. I also wanted to just mention I noticed today that there has been work begun on an emergency easement access road from approximately the end of Cherry Hill Drive into the Diamond Head Lake subdivision. We've worked long and hard before this board, the other board, worked on setting up an agreement to make sure that the Elliott properties, the Diamond Head Lakes, had appropriate emergency access, that was not going to be turned into some major road, that it was going to be limited to fire and police access only. And so if you happen to notice that there's construction going on, that has been approved, that is appropriate, and it does allow the Diamond Head Lakes development the opportunity to have a safer community within their limits. So I just wanted everyone to know that has gotten started, it's been approved, and it's not something we should be worried about. But if you do have questions, I'm sure Mr. Abity will be the best person to ask, but I'd be glad to try to help too, and board members feel free to ask too if you have questions. I'd like to go into committee reports, but I'm anticipating that we haven't got a lot of them, but I'm going to ask each director to tell us how they gotten started. Mr. Tubbs, would you start, please?
Yeah, hey, good evening, everybody. I am chairing the Rec Committee, And we have, we had a really strong list of volunteers for the committee this year, of about 12 or so. Consulted via email with Meg and got together with Stu, the two other folks on the board. Reached out to folks starting today, anticipate having our kickoff meeting. You received an updated charter today. No major changes to that from last year, just updating the names as appropriate for the new board.
Okay.
So look forward to kicking that off on Wednesday of next week.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Strohmeyer?
Thank you. We had our first Admin Legal Affairs Committee meeting last Tuesday, and we went ahead at the meeting, established the second Monday of every month will be the meeting date going forward. The number of areas we covered were, got an update on the legal situation, which Mr. Abity will touch on in his report, as well as where we stand financially. Other than that, it was a very positive meeting, and look forward to going ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pino?
Yeah, I am the chair of the Airport Marina Committee, and we have, really all we've done so far is we've selected our members, and we are discussing first dates for first meetings.
Perfect, thank you. Dr. Nutting?
Defer to committee chairs,
Thank
Madam
you.
President. Want to congratulate the Madam President, first female president we've ever had of the Diamond Head POA.
Thank you very
Looking
much.
forward to it.
Thank you. Mr. Becker?
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Mr. Blackwell?
Yeah, I have nothing to add either.
Secretary Damians, do you have anything to say?
No, I do not.
Okay. How about Mr. Giarrusso?
I'm the chair of the Facilities and Safety Committee. We have our members selected. We have our charters updated. Looking forward to processing everything today, and then scheduling our first meeting soon.
Thank you. Mr. LaFontaine?
I'm the chair of the House and Food and Beverage Committee, and we have our initial meeting scheduled for Thursday, August 1st.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Mr. Lee?
Yeah, I'm currently the chair for the Golf and Grounds Committee. We've picked all of our participants, the volunteers, and we thanked everyone else that was on the list, for their time. We'll have our first meeting the Wednesday afternoon, so we'll be getting started on the
Perfect.
list.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all. Mr. Aberdeen, would you like to give your general manager's report, please?
Be happy to. Thank you. First off, congratulations to all of you for your positions, and thank you for your time and all the insight that you'll provide to myself and our employees as we continue to operate on a day-to-day basis. Some of you are new to this process, but the information packet that was placed in your table there's a summary page that explains what the backup sheets are. The first being a financial report for the month of June and year-to-date, January through June 2024. And bottom line for the month, it shows that the operating departments, all inclusive, had a net income gain of $55,585 compared to a budgeted amount of losing $12,647, so a positive variance of $68,232. Year to date, if you drop down, you'll see that the net income year to date is $305,522 compared to a budgeted amount of $195,219. So we're going into the second half of the year favorable, and we anticipate that to continue, barring any unforeseen surprises. So we're off to a good start and continue to work to do what's best for Diamond Head and its property owners and members. The next sheet in the packet is a summary of POA member participation in paying dues, and also golf membership. And it's really just some statistical and also revenue information that will be of interest to you as we go on. The next sheet is a summary of collections efforts, and it shows that for the period May through July, we collected $41,023. Total for the year to date, $111,027. That's a topic that we'll talk about in more detail, and look to the board for some advice and decision-making on that. The next information in your packet is the amenity use, and that provides both statistical and financial data. It shows activity at golf and swimming pools, tennis, the marina activity, as the RV storage as well. So these are just snapshots of operations for all of you. Keep you informed. The next section on this list is for me to give you a brief update on food and beverage operations at the club. As we know, we are currently operating without a food and beverage manager. I would like to express thanks and really appreciation for the staff that's in place. They have leaders in each area, from the kitchen to the latitude 30 to all areas, banquets, balls, and the leaders have stepped up, and I'm communicating with them on a daily basis, and they're really pulling together and keeping things going as we're accustomed to. So I'm proud of them. The search for the food and beverage manager position continues. We've recently put a post out on Indeed, and the number of responses have been favorable, and almost to the point where it becomes more than needed. I'll be meeting with some of those applicants, and my intention is to scale the number of potential candidates and then sit with you and Ronnie and whoever else on the board that may form a committee and have these people back in for a face-to-face visit once I narrow it down. The next information in the packet is a marketing report, followed by payroll and overtime summary. And the last sheet is a operations budget timeline. This is as we begin to make preparations for year 2025. And it starts with today's submittal of this summary to you, the board. And it gives dates and what's going to take place on or before those dates, with the objective being that there's a date that we have to submit the revised budget along with capital expenditure wish list with the help of Mr. Blackwood and the Treasury Department. I think our target for this is September 2024. Budget to be completed and distributed October 10th, 2024. So we start the process, and it's self-explanatory. There's an important section in here under August 12 where it references phase 2 of budget prep. It states that a list of capital expenditures will be generated by each department manager with an understanding that all capital expenditure requests and any compensation adjustments must be presented to the board for consideration. No action is to be progressed without board approval. So that's a reminder to myself, really. And that concludes my report. I'd say overall, things are good, and the support from the number of employees that we have has been favorable. And I'm proud to say that they're communicating and working well as a team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tubbs, do we have any POM members that want to speak on agenda items? Did anyone sign up?
I have nothing signed up.
Awesome, thank you very much. Then we'll move to the regular agenda. First is a motion to spread the results of the 2024 election of officers and directors of the board across the minutes of this meeting, including voting amounts for each position. May I have a motion to do so?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Dr. Nutting.
Second.
And that was Mr. Lee?
Ernie.
Thank you. Discussion. I put this motion here. I'm following in the footsteps of Mr. Knobloch, who was a former president of the board, as a way to assure that we communicate fully, completely, and have a solid record of what transpired. Otherwise, there's not really true set of minutes that hold this information. So the word spread across means it gets included in the minutes, which is atypical for most meeting minutes. Most meeting minutes only should cover actions taken by the board. But the word spread across means put this in the minutes so that we have this formal record. Does anybody have any questions about what I'm saying or what we've got proposed here? Then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye, or raise your hand, please. No ayes. Aye. Thank you. And anyone opposed? Thank you very much. It's unanimous. The second motion is to appoint the committee chairpersons as listed and approve their associated charters. I would appreciate a motion to support this. Mr. Tubbs? Okay, Mr. Strohmeyer, and seconded by Mr. Blackwood?
Sure.
Okay. Any discussion? Again, I'm following in the footsteps of President Knobloch from the past, and it was felt that it was a good way to communicate with everyone and to retain for our records the information that we decided upon at our orientation meeting. We're not going to spread the charters across the minutes, but they have been received by the secretary, who's to retain them. Is that correct? So that they are being retained. Everyone submitted theirs in a timely fashion. Does anybody have any questions or discussion about this motion?
I have a question. Did we have to do something with the golf committee with the 4 members being on it? Is this the time that we'd have to do that?
We had amended the charter to,
Make sure your speaker's on so they can hear you.
what he's talking about is we had amended the charter to include an extra board member in there. And I think the bylaws state it has to be a minimum of 2, so it doesn't have a maximum, so I don't think we really need to do anything other than just list those members.
Does anyone else have an opinion or thought about that portion of the, I think that's a good point. If it says a minimum of 2, it doesn't say max. And it is a combined committee. It used to be the golf committee and the grounds committee. Anybody?
So that means we're gonna have 3, is that what it is?
We'll have a chair and 3
Yes.
There'll
chair,
be a total of 3, or
a total of 4.
4, okay. I just want to understand what,
Yeah,
Okay.
it was 3 originally, and then we just added 1 more person.
okay.
And you still have a manageable committee with plenty of volunteers.
Yeah, we still have the 5 volunteers that we
Okay.
would normally have.
Okay. The reason I say the word manageable is in my past life, a committee over 10 got to be unwieldy, but you're right there, so I think that would be okay. Any other conversation, discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to recommend that we have a coherent, centralized delivery of communications for the folks who are non-selectees. Having only seen the handful within my one committee, I don't know if they have volunteered for multiple committees. And so I think it makes sense to kind of take a top-level view of that, especially if there's folks who are not going to be selected, having volunteered for multiple committees.
Any thoughts, anyone?
I was under the impression we were only putting 1 person on each committee that was a non-board member. Is that correct?
You mean a volunteer from
A
the?
volunteer.
From the.
They wouldn't be on multiple
That's
committees.
correct, that's correct. And what I believe Michael's trying to say is, there were some people that volunteered for multiple committees, and so you don't always know if the person you didn't choose did or did not get a position on the other
Oh, I
committee. So
understand. I
he's
didn't
looking for
understand
a central, and I was thinking it might be wise to have kind of a centralized thank you process, so that we're sure that anybody who wasn't selected gets an appropriate thank you. However, Mr. Lee mentioned that you've already sent out thank yous to many of your committee members. Any other chairmen have thoughts? You want to take care of your own? You want me to do it?
Oh, I thought we had agreed that there would be a central response to people thanking them for volunteering if they did not get selected.
We did create that response, but we didn't really decide who was sending that response. I think that's our problem.
That's fine. I'm not going to send something out if there's going to be a central response.
Certainly. Yeah, that's what I'd like to know is what would you prefer?
Central.
Central? Anybody else have any comments?
I'd agree with that.
Okay, so we have one topic of discussion, which is central response to thank you, which I will handle. But the next part then is, are we going to approve this motion as it's written? Any other conversation about this particular motion? If not, please show of hands if you approve motion 2412, appoint committee chairpersons and listed and associated charters. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for bringing that up. I think that was an important topic. And then we have motion 2413 to approve, a motion to approve the proposed meeting dates for the next 2 years. Anybody want to make that motion for me, please?
I can make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Giroux.
I'll second.
And Dagmar second. Okay. I sat down with a calendar and just ran through and said the third Monday of every month would be wonderful. And it's been pointed out to me that I nicely hit upon several federal holidays that occur on those same dates that I chose throughout the next 2 years. I'd like some comment on whether we should continue with the plan or if we should amend that calendar now, or should we not approve this motion and go back to the drawing board?
I think we should not approve it and go back to the drawing board, so it doesn't conflict with significant holidays.
Okay. Anybody else have thoughts about that? Discussion is
I'm
what
open
we're
to
doing.
discussing it now
Yeah.
or going back to the drawing board. How many days do you know, Madam President?
3? 3 in 2 years.
You did
One
pretty
is
good.
like a President's holiday, one is Martin Luther King Day, and one St. Patrick's Day, which probably isn't an official holiday. But we don't feel like we can offer free beer on that day. Yes.
Suppose we stuck to the Monday schedule, but on those 3 holidays, we moved it to Tuesday. And everybody would know when the holiday, the meeting was the next day, so, and then the rest of the time, we would stick to the Monday schedule.
I would agree with that.
Does Tuesday conflict with the city's use of this room?
I was going to say that. It could conflict with the city council and also can conflict with the charters for the committee meetings.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like what we need to do is decide whether to approve or not approve this motion and then take it from there. Perhaps that would be the best way to resolve this. So those in favor of approving the proposed meeting dates for the next 2 years, no changes, just as it's written, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Okay, cool, we solved that problem. All right, the motion is not carried. We're back to the drawing board on meeting dates. Thank you very much for your input and for your work. And Mr. Tubbs, you said there's no other members to want to talk on anything else? So our next open board meeting will be Monday, August 19th. I don't think that's a holiday, at 6 p.m. in the city council. We have some other business that needs to be attended to. Is there someone who would move to adjourn us to an executive session?
I move that we adjourn to an executive committee.
Okay, in a second.